It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews.
There's going to be much higher expectations, sense of awareness of what we bring to the table.
Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Sproles, ends up, yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in. It's another edition of the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, talking about what's going on in sports. Certainly big news today. Boy, the hits just keep on coming. The big news on Monday was that Danny Sprinkle was leaving Utah State to go to the University of Washington. Certainly that carried over in a big way yesterday. And then today, news that Mason Falslev has put his name in the transfer portal. Doesn't necessarily guarantee that he's on his way out, but odds are that he will not be returning. So a lot of texts coming through on the Full Court Press text line last hour. I want to continue to hear from you. 435-339-0321. Also, we'll get into some Utah State football talk. Jason's had a chance to get up to several practices to see this Utah State football team coming together for next year. Interesting battles, interesting stories developing in the early going. And so we'll get into that. As always, whatever your reactions are. And so there's a lot of texts that came through from last hour that we didn't get a chance to clear. So we'll get to some of those before we transition into Utah State football. But 2305, can you share the buyout that Washington had to pay Utah State for Danny Sprinkle's contract? Also, sorry, there was two texts here. Who is responsible for putting the next season's schedule together? Is it the AD or was it the coach? Who's in charge? I've always wondered that. And then what would be the buyout?
Oh, it's just the remainder of his contract essentially, which is was it $800,000, and the rest of his we had 3-4 years left in his contract.
Yeah, so it's in the neighborhood somewhere between $2.5 and $3 million.
Yeah, I've seen around 2.5 is about the amount of money that Sprinkle through the University of Washington ends up paying,
owes to Utah State.
Yeah, the University of Washington basically through Danny Sprinkle paid.
Yes, that's the way to put it.
$2.5 million or so. And as far as the schedule, I don't know. I've gotten the impression that the head coach has a lot to do with putting together the schedule, but I imagine the AD plays a factor as well. Because whenever we've talked to coaches, they're always saying it seems like they're very much doing a lot of the running around trying to put it together. But obviously AD is going to be involved in that as well. So really a joint effort in going out, reaching out, contacting schools, trying to get things put together, negotiating different kinds of things, potential home and home, that kind of stuff.
Right. The AD needs to be involved because if it's a buy game, whether you're going somewhere to maybe earn a check or someone's coming to your place and you pay them to play. But the majority, from what I understand, the majority of that schedule comes from the head coach for basketball. For football, it's the athletic director that mostly puts that together.
Yeah. There's a lot more money involved there, so they're probably more invested.
Higher level negotiations. Let the coaches focus on playing and developing their team. But I think the football coach has some say. I mean, but we have seen Utah State coaches highly critical of some of the scheduling decisions that have been made that they had no part in, and they don't want to go play these games.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's as far as we know on that. 9315. What's the salary for San Diego State's head basketball coach this year? I don't know, but I bet he is the highest paid in the Mountain West. That's why he stays. Yes, that is true. What is it? I'm not sure. Last year I saw a report that it was about 1.3, but I know he just signed an extension, so it's probably a little bit more than that. And then I know of two BYU bigger name players in football that came back to BYU and one Utah player.
Yeah, so guys come back from the portal, but it's
possible.
It's rare. And especially for a team like Utah State that's not going to have as much NIL to throw. That's the chance for Utah State to bring Mason Falslev back, is bring in a coach that will believe in Mason Falslev and also being able to mostly match the kind of money. They're not going to entirely match any offers that he's getting because BYU and Utah are going to throw money at him, like especially BYU. Utah might be awkward because like he was committed to them once, but then he left. But I don't know. Maybe Craig Smith Mason wasn't on the roster at any point. Craig Smith was around because it wouldn't have been because it would have been Odom if anything. But yeah. I know BYU's probably going to have a lot of interest. They'll throw money at him. In-state kid. And they could use a guy that's really good.
And there
really
have
good
been
attacking the
Falslevs who have played, one played football at least at BYU. So there's some family connection to that university.
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of interest there. There's going to be teams around the country interested in around the West Coast. Washington, I imagine Danny Sprinkle will show interest. And they're going to be able to throw a lot of money and be able to make a lot of promises. But I'm going to be honest, if I had one thing to say to Mason, it's like there are probably 3 or 4 players off the top of my head that I can think of that moved up as highly touted freshmen in their conference, moved up to a bigger conference with promises of, you're going to be a star and you're going to be a big player on this team, and they don't play diddly squat. Funnily enough, one of those players off the top of my head played for Utah State this year, or rather didn't play for Utah State this year, even though he was on the roster.
Yeah, that's true.
Big Sky Freshman of the Year last year, didn't play at all in Utah State.
Yes. The grass isn't always greener.
It's rarely greener. Like, it is surprisingly. You talk about, football, like, I think we had this conversation, but in basketball, there are so many basketball players that move up because they think, we're going to move up. And their success stories, great Osobor. But like I said, off the top of my head, and I just looked one up during the break, so I was like, I remember this one guy. He averaged like 17 points per game in like the Southern Conference. He transferred coincidentally enough, he transferred to Washington and may or may not still be there. Went from averaging 17 points per game, I think he was freshman of the year. Hard to imagine he wasn't. And he was a borderline rotation guy, barely played at Washington.
5338. I'm surprised there's been no word from Great Osobor yet.
Don't be surprised that nobody said anything yet, and don't read too much into that. If we're like a week and a half removed and nobody's entered the portal, that'll be surprising. But it took about a week last year for guys to start entering their name in the portal. Like, there was 3, 4, 5, 6 days before, and it all kind of came at once over the span of 3 or 4 days. But like, Ashworth didn't put his name in the portal for like a week and a half. Or I think it was like at least a week. So
and Osobor made it very clear he hated being in the portal last year.
Yeah, so
he did not like that experience.
These guys don't make snap decisions to enter the portal. They think about it, and these guys haven't done players will enter the portal like day one. They've already thought about it. They're already gone. I don't think very many of these players were thinking they were going to end up having to think about transferring, and so they hadn't gone through that process yet. So they're still going through that soul searching. Do I want to enter the portal and whatnot? So don't be surprised that it's taken this long, and don't read too much into the fact that it's taken this long. More guys will enter the portal. It's just that's kind of the time span we tend to look at. It'll take a few days. They think about it, then they enter, and that's how it goes. So a week and a half, guys that haven't entered the portal, they're probably sticking around. But for now, don't look too much into the fact that only 2 guys have put their name in.
Yeah, this is still very fresh.
Yeah, and don't take that as a sign that nobody else is entering. That's
right.
Kind of the main point.
8577, why would Falslev want to leave USU? He's a hometown hero in Cache Valley. Is it because of NIL money?
That's a big part of it. And people keep talking about the hometown hero thing. He committed to Utah out of high school. This guy isn't
he originally wanted to leave Cache Valley.
Yeah, this is a guy who isn't grew up, was always going to play for the Aggies, only wanted to play for the Aggies, and is now suddenly, for the first time in his life, considering not playing for Utah State. He was going to play for a different team and was perfectly happy about that, and it was obviously perfectly fine. You don't knock somebody's choice. He was going to play at the University of Utah, and he'd made that choice, and he felt it was best for him. He then decided he wanted to play for the Aggies. But again, things changed. He didn't want to play for the University of Utah because there were circumstances that changed and reasons that he wanted to go there changed. Came back to Utah State. Obviously enjoyed his time here. He's very clearly enjoyed being the hometown hero, playing for his hometown team and playing in the Spectrum. But he is opening up his options to potentially go somewhere else. He may decide to come back. He may decide that, hey, maybe being the hometown here is the best option for me. But he may also decide that, like, hey, if he can go down and play at BYU, he can still be an in-state kid, get a lot of NIL, and, play high-level basketball. And that would be perfectly fine. Like, there are a lot of reasons he would want to leave USU. It's not like he's tied to the hip at USU. Like, he may have played high school ball in the Valley, but clearly that's not his number one motivation, or he never would have left the Valley to begin with to go play, committed to go play elsewhere in the Valley. He never went to Utah, but.
Yeah. No, but certainly, yeah, he had a great year here. Valley loves him, wraps their arms around him. Will he get that same level of love somewhere else? Who knows? Hard to know. Depends on how successful he is.
If he's successful, he will. Like,
yeah,
Darius Brown's not from around here, and everyone loves him now.
Yeah, yeah. But uncertainty is the coach. And I think you put it right. There's going to be a coaching change for Mason Falslev, so he gets to pick the coach, or the coach decision is made for him. And look, he's giving himself options. That's all.
Yep.
A couple more texts. 8968. Like the basketball coach, I don't wish Mason, bad luck, and I don't wish him good luck. He's gone. I don't wish him anything. And then the fact that Danny Sprinkle left the Aggies wasn't exactly news. Well, the fact that it was official made it official. We heard the rumors and the speculation for over a month.
It moved from likely very true rumor to confirmed news.
Yes.
So that's how it went there. 5180 saying San Diego State coach $2.3 million base salary, which is pretty high. It's higher than I thought it was. But yeah, like San Diego State, they can raise that kind of money because he's very valuable. And I mean, if the Aggies could find a coach to pay $2.3 million, I imagine they could keep somebody here.
Right, you get longevity.
But they've got to find a coach who's, like, the thing is, Dutcher can double his salary right now by going somewhere else. But he doesn't want to because he likes where he's at and he's built a good program. Like, if the Aggies can find someone who's willing to maybe not make $4 or $5 million, but make like $2 million.
Dutcher was on the radar at Michigan. Like, he was a former assistant there under Steve Fisher. But he's built a program that plays in a good conference, gets to the NCAA tournament, has deep runs in the NCAA tournament. He gets to live in San Diego.
Yeah, he's got everything that he feels like he needs. And I think you can eventually find a coach that feels like he'll have everything he needs at Utah State. You could end up finding that guy. But until then, we're going to keep playing this head coaching roller coaster. The ins and outs, carousel. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. A couple more texts. 5452. Devin Tompkins was in the transfer portal. He came back. Right. Yeah. So there are cases where players enter the portal, especially when there's a coaching change, and I don't fault them. If there's a coaching change, you should put your name in the portal because you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And then, but give the new coach a chance. This isn't the guy who recruited you. You don't know, or the woman, if you're in women's basketball, you don't know your role in this new program, how you're going to fit in to what they want to achieve and how they want to run things. You don't know if your personalities are going to connect. But at least give the new coach a chance. That's all I would ask. Yeah. I don't blame any player for putting their name in the portal if there's a coaching change. I would just ask that they at least give the new coach a chance.
Yeah. But my other thing, and I don't mean to do doom and gloom here, but I know a lot of people are pointing out guys that have stayed, and I pointed out a couple like Tompkins, I think even Shulga, but find a guy who had like a really good year, enter the portal, and then came back. Because if you kind of raise the qualifications to that, I can't think of one. Really anywhere.
Tompkins had a good year. The following year, he had a great year.
2020, he did barely anything. Like, we could all kind of tell that he was good, but he barely did anything. Like, he left, didn't get a whole lot of attention.
The whole team barely did anything that year, to be honest.
And he left halfway through the year. So it's like, and Shulga hadn't broken out yet when he, entered, came back. So it's like, the thing is that when you have a good year and then you enter the portal, you get tons of attention.
You're going to get a lot of attention, a lot of interest.
And some of these guys, when
which Falslev is getting.
Yeah, he's going to get that. Guys like Tompkins and Shoga, they didn't get a lot of attention, so they came back. Because they still had a home here. They were still, the guys wanted them to stay. You know, the coaching staffs at Utah State came in and say, hey, we want you here. You may not be getting a whole lot of attention, but we want you here. We want you to build this program. Mason's obviously going to get that from the new head coach, but he's going to get way more attention and way more money from outside sources, things that Utah State can't compete with. For Tompkins and Shoga, it was pretty obvious that their best option was to come back. For Mason, it's not necessarily obvious.
Couple more texts coming through, 5338. I wonder how good a team the Aggies would have been with a healthy Agbong Polo and Raekwon Battle. Certainly would have had a lot more versatility.
Yeah, if Battle would come here. Well, the thing is, if you get Battle here, you probably don't get Ian Martinez or at least one other player.
But Agbong Polo, like we had him in an Aggie uniform, and everybody got to see what he could do and his versatility, at least defensively.
Yeah, he would have changed a couple of different games. He would have given the Aggies defensive versatility, the ability to be more physical against teams that, like where the Aggies struggled to rebound and to defend some guys that were kind of between Great Osborne and Isaac Johnson, Osborne, the bulky 6'8" guy, and Isaac Johnson kind of a 7-foot twig. Agbong Polo was kind of between that, where he could play against athletic guys that had more length. That would have helped a lot against Nevada and would have helped a lot against San Diego State, where they would have had, I think, a lot better chance winning that game. And maybe it would have helped them increase their seed, because if they followed the exact same trend and end up playing Purdue, that wouldn't have changed basically anything. But maybe it could have changed her trajectory, maybe changed the seed, changed whether or not the Aggies make the Mountain West tournament. Maybe. I don't know if Agbong Polo would have made that big of a difference, but he definitely would have helped.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder, though, if Agbong Polo is available more often, would Isaac Johnson have been seen as many minutes as he saw?
Agbong Polo would have taken over a lot of Khalifa Sacco's minutes, which ate into Isaac Johnson's a little bit, but I don't know if he would have eaten any more into Isaac Johnson's minutes. Or maybe they would have ended up starting, because the thing is, one of the last games Agbong Polo played was starting in place of Isaac Johnson. I don't know if that was going to be a long-term decision or if it was just a thing that he did against San Francisco. I suspect they probably would have just gone back to Isaac Johnson. But, yeah, the thing is, Khalifa Sacco would have been the one to play less. Agbong Polo would have, that's where Sacco got a lot of his minutes later in the year, was he ended up kind of being the Agbong Polo replacement. Not as versatile, but he was the guy that had some of the same skills, albeit a slightly different position. He was more of a true 5, nothing else. Agbong Polo was like a 3 through 5, which was obviously part of his versatility.
Right. Let's see a couple more texts. 8577. Where did you find out that Falslev is entering the transfer portal? So there's a
bunch of different people reported it.
Yeah, there's an account on Twitter that they're connected to whenever somebody puts their name in the portal officially.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, it's not just one, it's like 4 or 5.
Yeah, there's several of them that spit it out.
So the guys that when they report it, it's happened.
Yes. It's very, very reliable.
Because a lot of these websites also literally sell services to coaches for their transfer portal rankings and systems. So they know he's in.
Yeah, he's in. A couple other texts. 9315. Let's see, what thing can you ask in an interview to find out what a new coach needs to stay at USU? Like brain? And then maybe just hire the best-looking woman coach for the men's basketball. Be the first with a woman men's coach. And if she looks good, players may not need NIL to stay. Okay, that's really sexist.
That's not appropriate.
That's weird. 0366. We're just going to move on off of that one. I used to find solace in college athletics because the pros were a joke. Now college athletics are about the same. Can I buy season tickets to high school athletics?
Kind of. I mean, when I go to high school games, they have reserved seats for donors isn't the right word, but members
boosters.
of their boosters. That's the word. So I mean, kind of. And we got good high school basketball around here.
Yeah. High school sports in general, very competitive.
You go see Emily Skinner before she eventually leaves the Valley because she's going to go somewhere.
That's probably true. She's named the 4A Player of the Year.
Yeah, 4A Player of the Year, like Gatorade Player of the Year for women's basketball in Utah. So obviously a very, very good player, and has her whole senior year where I feel like next year she might go off statistically because she's had a really good team around her, and a lot of those players are gone. So she might have
a lot more may be on her shoulders.
Yeah, that's where the statistical jump may come from. Is just there's more on her shoulders, and so we'll see. I'm not going to speculate, but
8945. Before we take a timeout, can't wait for the day when a super wealthy philanthropist picks a small Division I school and buys the best coach and players and runs the table on the all P5 schools, wins the national championship just to prove he could do it.
That's possible. It could happen. You might see that happen to a school where they just get a bunch of money. Isn't that basically what happened to Manchester City out in England? Like some super wealthy person bought them and just paid a bunch of money. Maybe I shouldn't put that too much out there because I don't know.
That's what the Saudi Arabians are trying to do.
Yeah, that's their whole philosophy.
That's right.
Saudi Arabians are going to pick a college and try and buy a championship. Honestly, that may actually how it ends up happening.
Well, Florida State has talked about private equity money getting involved with their program.
We need, like, as quickly as possible to have, like, collective bargaining and just organize college sports into a somewhat some kind of semi-pro format, because otherwise it's going to get, like, we think it's getting out of hand. It can actually get even worse.
Yeah,
to be
it
honest.
can. Let's do this. Let's get through two more quick texts, and then let's shift gears to talk about Utah State spring football. 8920, is it likely Falslev follows Sprinkle?
It's possible. We'll see. I think for Danny Sprinkle, like, I think he's only going to potentially go for a couple of players, because in part of moving up, you got to get bigger and better players. And I think Osibor can probably fit there. Mason, maybe. Like, he'd have to do a lot of growing really quick to fit in, like, day in and day out. Big Ten basketball. Like we saw, he scored 10 points against a Big Ten team, so there's some contributions he can make. But Danny Sprinkle's going to have to get a power conference roster, and so I think he's going to focus a lot more on the transfer portal where he can get those high-level guys.
Well, and he needs to see what he has to work with anyway.
Which isn't much, to be honest.
Yeah, what's
Washington's lost like 6 or 7 guys already.
Yeah. And then 5180, the transfer portal has fundamentally changed college sports. Hence, being a fan of college sports has changed too, like it or not. For a school like USU, this is just really the new normal. We've got to adapt and move forward. It is what it is. Ditto with Coach.
I don't know if I can officially endorse this because I do want people to listen to our show during the summer, but maybe just like check out on like March 25th or like whenever, like usually the time the Aggie season ends, then just check back in like August and we'll walk you through it. Everything that happened.
We'll fill in the gaps.
Which guys are still around and which guys have essentially vanished into the ether for all you're going to know about. And maybe just go with that. Let's
shift gears to maybe a little bit more exciting topic, and that is
less transfer portal ridden. College football survived the transfer portal.
That's right. It's like opposite. And Utah State football was able to keep a lot of their guys. Of course, that helps when your coach stays too. And what are we observing so far in spring practices? They're open to the public. If you've gone, love to get your reactions and what you've observed as well. 435-339-0321.
Spring is here and new deals are blooming at Murdoch Chevrolet.
Pick your new car at our spring sales event.
Everything feels new in spring, so pick a Murdoch Chevy and drive renewed. Receive up to $9,000 off or 2.9% for 6 years on a Silverado 1500.
When you walk through our doors, you feel like family.
At Murdoch Chevrolet in Logan and Woods Cross or online at murdochchev.com.
Chevrolet, together let's ride.
Call 866-628-3065 to see dealer for complete details. Offer expires 4/1/24.
Rely now on a York Affinity Premium Comfort System to keep your home cool and comfortable. The new Affinity systems are smarter and more connected and more efficient than ever before, and you can cut your energy costs by as much as 50%. Call Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning, your local York dealer, to schedule a free system evaluation. Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning showroom is west of DI and online at advancedheating-ac.com.
We're not comfortable until you are. Advanced Heating and Air.
Spring will get here, and when it does, those old rusted-out vehicles need to be moved. Call DD Auto and Salvage and let them pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it easy and fast to get rid of your junker vehicles, paying you the most money possible. Pickup is available. DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204.
That's 787-1204 today.
See store for details.
Are you getting overwhelmed by decisions regarding Social Security? Adams Wealth Advisors is here to help you secure your financial future by helping you navigate the complexities of the Social Security system. The team of experts at Adams Wealth Advisors is ready to guide you through the process and tailor a custom financial plan that fits your goals and aspirations. With Adams Wealth Advisors, it's not just about managing your wealth, it's about empowering your future. Call 752-1702 or search online for Adams Wealth Advisors to schedule an appointment with a Social Security expert today.
Nothing better than a great song from 1976. Hi, this is Bob Larson with LSS Insurance, and I'm talking to you, graduating class of 76. Even if you're still working or getting ready to retire, Medicare is a conversation we need to have. Let us help you understand Medicare and all your options. Don't rely on TV ads or annoying phone calls. Having a local agent makes all the difference. Call LSS at 752-9493. Call 752-9493.
At Evolution Design, crafting custom stone countertops that become the heart of your home is what they do better than anyone. From the initial consultation to the final installation, their team is dedicated to supporting you every step of the way. Their years of experience will help guide you to the perfect product. Whether it's granite, marble, or quartz, the craftsmen at Evolution Design work tirelessly to bring your vision to life. Because home is more than just a place to live. It's where memories are made and shared. Get started at evogranite.com.
Evolution Design, quality set in stone.
Nothing beats March Madness. The pure sound of a swish, the rattle of a slam dunk, the fans on their feet for the big moments. And the action just keeps getting better until a national champion is crowned. Hear all the action with Westwood One's exclusive coverage of this year's NCAA tournament, right here.
Catch all the action of March Madness on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, online at 1069thefan.com or the Fan mobile app.
Following the local teams, it's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker. And Utah State football spring practices are underway. They've been practicing now we're into their second week.
Yeah, second week. They started last Monday or Tuesday, I think it was.
Jason, you've had a chance to get up to some of those practices, a partial practice, a full practice. Some of our shows have kind of gotten in the way of you being able to get up there and see things in its entirety. But what are the early observations for Utah State football?
Yeah, I was able to go to a couple of the first ones, so I saw like how things kind of began, and then there's going to be things developing. So I'll have an article that'll kind of go over some of my observations and the things that I was focusing on the most, things I wanted to find out, trying to figure out from the beginning of spring ball. Yeah, it'll be tricky for me to watch a ton of these practices because they practice from 4 to 6. Which makes
a terrible time for us.
Yeah, it's not so good. So, but if I ditch out on one of the shows, it'll probably be for that. But that's probably not going to happen for most of the rest of spring ball. They will have their spring scrimmage next Saturday, which I will 100% be at, provided they, it'll be open to the public. But sometimes weather forces it inside. But even then, a lot of times they let the media in.
Right.
So
yeah.
I'd be able to report on that, most likely, barring some really weird circumstances. But for me, I think I had 3 main keys that I was looking at. And top of the list, obviously, the quarterback battle. That's job number 1. I walked in and I immediately, where are the quarterbacks? There they are. And started watching, how do they look when they throw. They don't get to 11 on 11s until second half of practice. But got a chance to watch them throwing to the wide receivers. How does it look? How does it look? How does the ball look coming off their hands? How generally accurate are they? In the first practices, they're all going to be a bit rusty. They all looked rusty. But they all looked good at times too. So The thing for me that I noticed with the quarterbacks, the first thing is that Cooper Legas, he's the incumbent. He got handed the first team reps. He is the guy who, as of now, would start. Obviously, there's a long way to go. And I kind of described in my articles like a two-tiered quarterback battle because you have 4 players that all you could say theoretically could start because they all have Division I starting experience.
Yeah, yep.
But to me, it's basically broken up into Cooper Legas is the incumbent. He has a starting job, but Spencer Petras is right behind him. Petras actually took a couple of first-team reps, or at least he was with like the first-team offensive line in some of the 11-on-11s I've been watching. And so it's those two battling each other where I think those are your 2 favorites. Like Legas right now is in the clubhouse starter, but Petras is very much challenging him for that starting job. And then you have Bryson Barnes and McKay Hillstead behind him. Those guys kind of battling for that, between the 3rd and 4th spot. You'd probably presume Barnes ends up the 3rd string, but I don't know, I can't guarantee anything. Hillstead is a very talented quarterback, so you can't count him out, even though I think a lot of people kind of are. They're just assuming he's going to be the one to redshirt. But I wouldn't just completely assume that for now. But, yeah, for me, it's Legas and Petras. And I got my first chance to see Spencer and see him throw, and it looks really nice coming off his hand. He's got a little bit more zip. He's probably got the best arm of anyone in the quarterback room, but having the best arm doesn't always guarantee that you're going to win. It's not like he has this like cannon for an arm that's way better than everyone else. It's kind of a slight advantage. So it's going to come down to how accurate and how well these guys can throw the ball, and also not turning it over. Like when I watched Cooper Legas, he was when I mentioned he was rusty, he threw a couple of picks because I think it was his first time playing full speed since he got injured. So that'll be something he's got to work on and continue to not do or stop doing. Because if he keeps, turning it over, that's what got him benched in the first place last year.
Yes.
So the quarterback battle, fairly interesting, mostly competitive between 2 guys, I think. But you do have 4 guys that you'd probably feel comfortable starting a game for the Aggies, which is that's probably the deepest quarterback room I'll ever see in my life. I don't know if it has the high-end talent of other quarterback rooms we've seen out of the Aggies. There's not a Jordan Love or Chucky Keaton in there. But there's 4 guys that you'd feel comfortable saying, yeah, if they're starting, we can win the game.
On any given Saturday, any one of them could line up under center and give the Aggies a chance to win.
Pretty much, yeah. So,
and that's a good problem to have because it pushes all of them.
Yeah, competition made Cooper Legas way better.
Oh, yeah.
He got way better after getting pushed and after getting benched. And so this is only going to make him, I think, even better. And all of these guys, like Petras, he's in his final season too. Like Legas and Petras, they're both, we got one more year, now I want to be the starter. And they're both going to push themselves as hard as they can. And so I think we're going to have a good quarterback play for the most part.
The other thing, too, is that you've pointed out in your article on Cashfly Daily, just what's happening to the guys in front of the quarterback. Just movement and changes with that offensive line.
Yeah, so you had one guy transfer out, and my curse of not remembering people's names is Ralph Frias.
Right.
Although he was kind of banged up, and so I think kind of by the end of the year you had a starting, offensive line where you had Cole Motes, Wyatt Bowles, Folipuli Alo, Tavo Motuapawaka, and Teague Anderson. Those guys, when I was out, those were the starting, 5 players, which was a little bit of a surprise because you brought in guys like Trey Anderson, Teague's brother, and George Miley, and you thought maybe they'd jump in. You also have Junior Sia, who was a pretty highly touted recruit last year. Obviously redshirted last year because there's not a whole lot of true freshmen play on the offensive line. But you think maybe those guys jump in because the offensive line was kind of iffy last year. Really struggled to get a push in the run game and struggled to protect the quarterback in a lot of situations. But for now, that same starting 5 offensive linemen, for the most part, seems to have held on to their job to start spring practice. But I think the storyline is, okay, do any of Trey Anderson or George Miley jump into that fray? Like, does Wyatt Bowles or Filipuli Alo it'd probably be Bowles, I think, is one of the guys that'd be at risk because with George Miley, he plays interior offensive line, so he could maybe take one of those guard spots. And maybe Trey Anderson takes over one of those tackle spots. Because Cole Motes at left tackle, he can move to right tackle as well. So, there's some versatility here. So it'll be interesting to see which of George Miley or Trey Anderson, if one of those two jumps in, because they were highly touted recruits themselves. Like, what was it? Was one of Miley or Anderson was a 4-star recruit. I don't think both of them were, but I think one of them was. Miley went to Baylor, Anderson went to Pitt.
Right.
So they're Power 5 transfers, which brings a lot of, that's a tag that comes with you. You were a Power 5 player, but neither of them played.
Right.
Which I think is part of why they didn't get handed a job, because they didn't play. So it didn't, once I thought about it, it didn't surprise me too much that neither were like in the starting lineup. But what'll be interesting is, like, do they eventually make their way into it? That's the thing to pay attention to. Like, at the start of spring ball, neither were starters. But, okay, what about the end of spring ball, start of fall camp? That's where you kind of look to see where do the shakeups in the offensive line happen, because you have the 5 basically incumbents all kept their job. Do they keep that by, week 1? Because there are a lot of guys that can come in and replace them. Very capable guys that can come in and just replace those guys who didn't perform well last year. So if they aren't stepping up their game, they're going to get replaced. So that's something that I'll be keeping an eye on through spring and fall camp.
We need to take another time out, but we've talked a lot about the offense. What about the defense? New defensive coordinator, new changes on the defensive line, just how that interior is going to look. What about the linebackers? A lot of questions at some key defensive positions. We'll discuss that. If you've had a chance to get up to any of those practices, because they are open to the public, any observations that you've had that you want to share with us? 435-339-0321.
Campbell Snacks, home of Pepperidge Farm, is celebrating 50 years in Cache Valley and experiencing a multi-million-dollar expansion. And with it comes exciting job growth. As a proud silver winner for 2 consecutive years for Best Place to Work in Northern Utah, Campbell's provides benefits that make a real difference, like significant daycare discounts at local providers. Come join the Campbell's family, offering excellent pay and hard-to-beat benefits package. Apply online
at careers.campbellsoupcompany.com.
That's careers.campbellsoupcompany.com.
Devotion to country, service to Utah. Brent Orrin Hatch had a front row seat, watching his father serve our state faithfully in the Senate. A constitutional conservative and lifelong Republican, Brent Orrin Hatch is a champion for the rule of law. He's running for Senate to stop this lawless president from destroying our country from within. Hatch will fight to secure the border once and for all, and take on Mexican drug cartels to halt the flow of deadly fentanyl. Brent Orrin Hatch knows the national debt is just as big a threat to national security. Hatch won't rest until the budget's balanced and won't cave to the big spenders in both parties. Pro-life, deeply committed to religious liberty, rock-solid Utah conservative. Brent Orrin Hatch for Senate. Paid for by Conservative Outsider PAC, which is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.copac.us.
Security. It's the most precious thing you can give your home, especially if it's guaranteed. No cheap locks, no weak keys, no inadequate hardware, just the expertise and precision and security. Beezer Lock and Key believes there's no place like a safe home, and no home safer than one secured by them. It may seem they only sell locks and keys, but what they really sell is peace of mind. Search Beezer Lock and Key or go to 4th North and 1st West and just add confidence.
The Sportsman on Main Street is loaded with great clothing, shoes, and equipment. This is Mark inviting you to come in and check out our awesome store. For 71 years, we have outfitted you, whether you are going on the trail or to the theater. Trust me, you won't see yourself coming and going as we work hard to have some of the most unique clothing and shoes you will see anywhere. If it's a bike, skis, or unique clothing and shoes, I promise we will take care of you only at the Sportsman on Main Street in historic downtown Logan with tons of free parking in the back.
JM Mechanical knows spring is sure to make its appearance someday, and when it does, how soon we'll forget the snow, ice, and 0-degree temperatures. 90-plus degree days will take over. JM Mechanical knows how to deal with the extreme temperatures of northern Utah. They know how to replace every type of heating or air conditioning brand. Fast 24-hour service is available in Box Elder, Cache, and Franklin counties with a 100% satisfaction guarantee and upfront pricing. Call JM Mechanical at 563-6267. That's 563-6267.
The Aggies are #1 here. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, streaming on 1069thefan.com and on the 1069 The Fan mobile app. Your local home to the NCAA tournament. That was a lot of fun, actually, listening to other Mountain West teams, even the Utah State Aggies on the national broadcast here on The Fan. Of course, we had the local broadcast on our sister station, KVNU. But you want to listen to San Diego State? Not near a TV? No, take The Fan with you. You can stream the game. You can listen over the air on the radio. And the rest of the NCAA tournament games will be here on The Fan. In fact, we're also going to have the semifinals and championship of the NIT, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we have the semifinals. That's going to shorten our show next week.
Tuesday, yeah.
So, yeah, we'll have those. And, heck, maybe University of Utah or VCU will be there because I think they're playing tonight,
They
right?
play each other, yeah.
So you could see Ryan Odom.
Former Aggie Bowl.
Yeah.
And I forgot, their sons played basketball together at Green Canyon.
They didn't play together. They just both played there.
They played on the same team.
Did they?
Because Craig Smith, even after he moved to go to Salt Lake, his son stayed here to play his senior year, and Ryan Odom's boy played on that same squad.
Okay, I didn't realize that Smith's kids stayed behind because I knew both of them played at those schools. I ended up running into Craig Smith at UVU once because they were doing the high school playoffs, and his son was playing in it.
Oh, yeah.
He came and said hi to some of the
That's
writers.
right.
We were covering high school ball at that time.
Yeah.
It was a fun little running into each other.
So actually, these speaking of NCAA tournament games, we will have a shortened show tomorrow because Sweet 16 coverage starts at 5, and then again on Friday, same deal.
So we'll have basically 1 hour shows, kind of 45-minute shows. But
then the Elite Eight games Saturday and Sunday here on The Fan. The NIT semifinal games on Tuesday next week, and then the NIT championship game on Thursday the 4th. Then we'll have the women's basketball Final Four games taking place on the 5th, and the men's basketball Final Four on Saturday the 6th. So a lot of different college basketball games that we're going to have here on The Fan, in addition to the Utah Jazz, which, yeah, they're still playing.
funny thing about the NIT is like they're trying to make the move to force like more major conference schools in, but like they took away like the regular season like title. Like
there's like an automatic qualifier opportunity.
Yeah, like if you didn't make it to the NCAA tournament, you could still get that to the NIT. They got rid of that so they could jam in more power conference teams, but they're all saying no.
I know. They'll back out. So dumb.
Like there were like 7 or 8 teams that backed out, and like the entire list was just power conference schools. Like the entire like last, first 4 out, next 4 out, like they all
opted out.
They all opted out. Like the only ones who didn't opt out in that group, like Indiana State and I think somebody else.
Yeah, Indiana State's playing really well.
Yeah,
trying to prove everybody wrong.
Yeah, I think they should have been in the tournament, but I said, I wouldn't say they deserve to be in there. You know what I say about deserving to be in the tournament? There's only about 20, 30 teams that deserve to be in there. Everyone else is just lucky they got in.
All right, so we're shifting gears back to football for Utah State University. And, of course, if you want to weigh in, if you've been to any of their practices, any questions you might have, Jason's been able to get to some of their practices. 435-339-0321. New defensive coordinator for Utah State. Change in defensive philosophy. Anything of note yet that you were able to gather from the practices that you went to?
It was tricky for me because, one, defense is not my specialty in terms of football. I struggle to analyze defense a ton, and when I do analyze defense, it's mostly just defensive line. So that's what I kind of ended up focusing on. And it was also hard to figure out the depth charts for defense because their formations are so completely fluid that you can't figure out, like, who are the starting linebackers? Well, for one, like, 2 of them are injured right now. I think Sean Dolock is still out recovering from his season-ending injury that kept him out for pretty much all last season. Max Alford is still out. So, like, Bronson Oliveo, I think, was starting at linebacker along with, I want to say Logan Peely. So, like, those are your starting linebackers in the formation, at least 2 of them. Anthony Switzer was out there, Ike Larson. Of course, you've also got Avante Dickerson is out right now. It's like a bunch of guys are, like, temporarily out right now
Still
on the
nursing
defense.
some injuries, yeah.
Marlon Dean is out. Like, most of the defensive guys I might look for in the depth chart are out for part or all of spring ball with, like, off-season surgery, recovers, that kind of thing. So there are guys that I'm going to have to wait to see in fall camp most likely. So that's why, what I put in the article was mostly about the defensive line, because that's where there's a lot more changes. Like most of the linebacker group is coming back. You're losing MJ Tafisi, but there's a lot of guys coming back. It's going to feel like Max Alford is a new guy because he was supposed to be the new guy last year and got injured on like the second or first play of the season.
Yeah.
So, but he's coming back. You got a lot of guys returning in the linebacker group, and a lot of guys returning in the secondary. There's some new faces, but a lot of guys returning in those two spots. So I was looking at the defensive line because I think that's where the most improvements need to be made because the run game was stopping the run.
Left a lot to be desired.
That's a very nice way to put it. They need to improve a lot, and I think there's some internal improvement. There's a lot of guys returning, and there's some internal improvement in. If the weight listings are accurate, most of them gained like 10 or 15 pounds over the offseason. Like Kean Sloan was listed at like 210 pounds when I first saw his weight listing when he transferred to Utah State. He's listed at 255 pounds now. So he's put on some weight. Paul Fitzgerald's gone up in his own size. He's a redshirt freshman last year. So there's some internal improvement. On the interior defensive line, you've got Sini Tuiaki, Bo Miley. Those are two guys who are going to have to step up. But the Aggies have also added a ton of guys on that defensive line. And I saw a lot of those guys, up in the rotation. Guys like Macchio Williams and Miguel Jackson. The New Mexico State transfer, Gabriel Iniguez, who's like a second-team all-conference player at his previous stop. So they've brought in a lot of guys to supplement and just build up the depth and hopefully raise the ceiling of that defensive line. And so I really want to see how that ends up looking. I want to see a lot of these new guys. There's also some other guys who could take a step up. Sir Mells, he was the guy who transferred in from Oregon last year, didn't play a whole lot, but does he have some, growth this season? Because he's really young. He was like a redshirt freshman last year. Now he's a sophomore. They also brought in Ricky Lolohea from Oklahoma State. There's a lot of guys they've brought in to try and supplement this defensive line, especially the interior defensive line. The defensive ends are actually largely unchanged. It's Marlon Dean, and that's mostly it. They added him on the defensive end, and it's mostly everyone staying, which I'm kind of fine with that. You had a lot of you had up-and-coming talent. They just need to get better and get more experience, put on some more weight. And they've done that. Guys like Kean Sloan, Blaine Spires, Paul Fitzgerald, and I'm that guy.
Miguel.
I can't say his name. Whose brother plays on the offensive line. So I like the potential of this unit. I don't think they have like superstar potential or best unit on the team potential. I don't think that's their ceiling. But it looks like they can definitely take a big step forward and be solid. Have some guys that can make some plays. Like Paul Fitzgerald is actually one of the guys who, despite the fact that he led the team in sacks last year, he's probably a candidate to be like a breakout. Because the thing is, he had like 8 sacks last year, but 5 of them happened in like 2 games. So he was a little inconsistent.
Yeah.
So he could be a breakout. Marlon Dean, obviously a potential breakout, where he was a highly rated recruit at one point, had to drop down to JUCO. Now he's back. Has a lot of physical prowess, and if he can harness that, he can be like a all-conference type guy. But the defensive line is probably the biggest part of the defense I'm looking at because that's the one that needs the most improvement, and the recruiters put a lot of legwork into making that improvement. So that's where I'm watching the most. Everywhere else, there's some new faces, but I'm not worried about the linebackers. I'm not worried about the secondary. They have talent. They have established guys there. The defensive line is where the most improvement needs to be made. So that's kind of what I'm looking at there.
I got to take another time out here in the Full Court Press. We'll come back with some final thoughts, some interesting games going on tonight. We'll remind you of, we kind of touched on the NIT, but again, we'll remind you of the games going on tonight. All of them are worth tuning into for various reasons. So we'll discuss that next here on the Full Court Press.
Hello, I'm Brent Wallace, President and Commercial Loan Officer at Cache Valley Bank. I've spent 18 years in banking, and I'm ready to share that expertise to help you meet your financial goals. I have a great team of bankers who are dedicated to providing you with the personalized attention you deserve. Come visit me at our main branch, or give me a call and let me show you what opening an account with us can do for you. We look forward to meeting you. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
According to Malcolm Gladwell, it takes over 10,000 hours to become an expert at anything. This is Jay with Daryl's Appliance. You don't need to spend any of your valuable time figuring out appliances when you partner with us. We are Cache Valley's local appliance experts. Daryl, my dad, started this business in 1970. Founded with his passion of connecting with people, we train our amazing team to carry on his passion for people and appliances. It's part of the Daryl's difference. Call for your appliance repair today. Daryl's Appliance, west on Airport Road.
Disasters don't wait for a convenient time. When the unexpected strikes, call the trusted team at Blue Sky. Remember, Blue Sky is that same great ARS team you know and trust.
This is Tom with Blue Sky Restoration. When disaster strikes, whether it's a flood, fire, mold damage, or an unforeseen accident, Blue Sky will clean up, repair, and restore your home or business like it was before. No disaster is too big or too small. For all your restoration needs, you can trust our Blue Sky team.
When it comes to home care, it's important to know you have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of hospice or home health services, remember that Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient as well as the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call to schedule a free consultation. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, your local hospice and home health provider since 2006.
Many Aggie fans like to go to the game, some fans love to yell at the TV, and all fans like to wear a shirt or a jacket with their favorite team's logo. Aggie fans find the best selection of USU logoed apparel at Locker 42. Find yourself an Aggie t-shirt for $10. Locker 42 features Aggie logoed hoodies, jackets, and golf shirts, and a hat wall with over 40 styles. Women's specific apparel, youth sizes for the junior Aggie, and toddler and infant Aggie items as well. Locker 42 is a store for Utah State fans by Utah State fans, and proud to be part of Aggie Nation.
Interviews, analysis, and a little bit of fun mixed in. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker. Utah and TCU, they play tonight. They tip off at 7 o'clock on ESPN2. And that will be the second game of the day because I should check the score right now because UNLV is already underway with Seton Hall. That game tipped off at 5, also on ESPN2. So let's see if I can find a score there. If UNLV advances, they will face Georgia in the semifinals on April 2nd. Winner of VCU and Utah will face Indiana State, who beat Cincinnati last night.
So I just checked in on the UNLV score, and they're getting boat raced by Seton Hall right now. 44-26.
Oh.
Halftime.
Right at halftime?
Yeah, right as I took the score, it was like 1 second left, and then it just updated to halftime. So, yeah, that game going on now. And then the next game, VCU-Utah, the I will eventually regret leaving Utah State as a head coach showcase.
Yes.
Craig Smith already regrets it.
Yep.
Ryan Odom, I don't know if he'll actually ever regret it, but because I think he made his decisions for reasons other than I
think there were non-basketball reasons.
Yeah, and so for him, I think he might regret it less. But Craig Smith, I'm 100% sure he regrets leaving Utah State to some degree.
Utah's path there, they beat UC Irvine, then they beat Iowa. VCU beat Villanova, then they beat South Florida. And UNLV's path to the quarterfinals, they beat Princeton and then Boston College. Also, Utah Jazz in action tonight. We'll have that game here on The Fan as they take on the San Antonio Spurs. Again, this is about developing your younger guys. And look, the other night against Dallas, Taylor Hendricks, I thought he was playing fantastic defense on Luka Doncic, but I don't think anybody has proven much of an ability to entirely shut down Luka Doncic.
Yeah, it takes a team effort to stop Luka because that's the same way with Nikola Jokic. Like when you have these guys that are so fantastic with their overall game, where not only can they score and hit shots, but they can pass and they know just where to, push and prod a defense. There's no stopping them because you need your entire team to be playing. It's like Taylor Hendricks guarding. You think, oh, Taylor Hendricks playing good defense on Luka. It's like, yeah, probably, but the whole rest of the team has to contribute too. And so then Luka goes completely off. And of course, Taylor Hendricks is never going to stop Luka because he's a rookie. Like you'd have to be generational talent.
No, but he does show some promise, and I like that they're playing him. He's got an expanded role here. Keontae George continues to look like a great future player in the NBA. We haven't seen a lot of consistency out of Bryce Sensabaugh, but this is about getting the young guys run. And we're actually seeing a lot more of Johnny Juzang. Probably more than I want to see.
Yeah, probably. But the thing with Taylor Hendricks, so like Taylor Hendricks won't be a star, but he could be an incredibly valuable player, like with that defense. Like
yes,
you look at the way the NBA is going with the Victor Wembanyama's and Chet Holmgrens and 7-foot playmakers. It'd be nice to have a 6'9", 6'10" guy with the long wingspan who can play really good defense against these kind of guys. The
all over the
Giannis's
court.
So like inside and outside defense. Like I don't know if he's ever going to be Defensive Player of the Year material, but that guy who can go out there and guard your 7-foot unicorn playmaker, those guys are going to be worth their weight in gold. They may not be the star of your team, but they will be championship winning players.
So Utah Jazz and the San Antonio Spurs pregame at about 6:50 here on The Fan. That'll do it for us tonight. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow.